Well, unbeknownst to most, everyone encased in the beltway bubble who dismissed his candidacy and characterized him as merely a showman and some combination of stupid and evil. Donald Trump actually ran on one of the most bold and exhaustive reform agendas ever proposed by a presidential nominee. Promises to achieve what a succession of career politicians refused or failed to do abounded in Trump's 2016 campaign. And while the wall took center stage and his promise to appoint constitutionalists to the Supreme Court did lead many right-of-center voters to warily pull the lever for him, it was Trump's audacious assurance of 3 to 4% economic growth and a dramatically improved outlook on jobs that represented the actual centerpiece of his campaign. After all, you can't make America great again without a strong economy and abundant jobs. Considering that he had the political and media establishment crosshairs aimed at his heart from the moment he arrived in the swamp. Think about where Trump would be if the economy tanked and unemployment went up. He would undoubtedly become a one-term president. But that hasn't happened. After Trump made it clear during his campaign that bringing back American jobs was his passion.
We have to bring our jobs back, and we have to stop jobs from leaving. Every day we're reading about companies, great companies, Pfizer, great pharmaceutical companies, moving to Ireland. A lot of companies are moving to Mexico. I mean, Mexico's like China, little smaller version. We're losing all of our jobs, folks.
But look where we are now, 2.5 years after Trump was elected. 263,000 jobs added in April alone, continuing a trend of impressive employment figures in virtually every month since he took office, on top of the lowest unemployment rate since we landed a man on the moon and the Mets won the World Series in 1969, 3.6%. Wages up 3% in just the last month, plus 3.2% economic growth in the last quarter. Trump has undeniably put the number one issue in every peacetime presidential election squarely in his column. Up to now, with the wind at their backs by virtue of the Mueller investigation and countless ad hominem attacks, the left and the media have succeeded in changing the subject from the economic successes of the Trump presidency. But with Mueller all but in the rearview mirrors, spinning or ignoring this story will now be almost impossible with a presidential election campaign underway, even for a Trump-deranged media which has all but renounced its journalistic creed and replaced it with unceasing, unapologetic propaganda designed to take this president down at any cost. Amidst this beltway bubble depicting the president as an unrepentant racist and right-wing extremist, it's easy for a guy like Bernie Sanders to promise free college for everyone, or for Cory Booker to promise reparations for the descendants of slaves, or for any number of candidates to support the insane Green New Deal, knowing none of those policies have any chance of becoming law in the foreseeable future. But it's quite another thing to promise that you will generate a booming economy and, of course, this.
I'll be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. We're going to have jobs.
The greatest jobs president the country has ever seen. Now, that's a core promise on which you will be scrupulously judged by the voters. But therein lies the difference. Trump actually meant what he said. Everything about him emitted an undeniable aroma of confidence, the sense that he honestly believed he could close the deal on what he was promising. After all, and think about this, why else would he decide to run? I mean, having secured the 3 F's, fame, fortune, and family, in enviable measure, and knowing the level of hatred and derision certain to be directed at him, Trump could really only have run for one reason. Wanted to be president for one reason. to do the things that needed to be done, which the career politicians refused to do. Indeed, Trump set himself apart from the succession of permanent politicians he mowed down by saying things nobody else would say and promising things no one else could or would deliver. And before you start with the wall and Obamacare repeal, those two major Trump promises as yet unfulfilled, remember that unlike every other Republican who made empty promises of stopping illegal immigration, Trump has been willing to take it to the mat and fall on the sword for it with his declaration of a national emergency. And Obamacare would already be in the dustbin of history if not for Trump's sworn establishment enemy, John McCain, whose last public act was to kill the Obamacare repeal by his one vote. Despite being weighed down from day one of his presidency by preposterous charges that he was a Russian asset, Trump sent forth the word that after years of a painfully slow recovery from the Great Recession, America was once again open for business. The America First climate that he's engendered, on top of the game-changing tax reform bill and the most aggressive deregulatory scheme in American history, have combined to produce this roaring economy, record low unemployment across the board, and soaring consumer and business confidence. The cascading effects of a roaring economy overflowing with new employment opportunities, now more numerous than the number of people actually available to fill them, have been well documented. Jobs are at the heart of any economic upturn. It's not rocket science. When more people work, productivity necessarily increases, crime is reduced, and Americans become less dependent on the welfare state. Best evidence of that is that since Trump took office, more than 4 million people have been lifted from food stamps. Oh, and by the way, the stock market has risen by 40% since Trump was elected. When it comes to the economy, was Trump right when he said this during his presidential campaign?
We will have so much winning if I get elected that you may get bored with winning. Believe me.
Okay, Americans never get bored of winning. But absent an unexpected recession between now and November of next year, the issue of whether Trump has delivered on his boldest and most significant promise has been settled. Even the nattering nabobs of negativism, as they were originally called by Spiro Agnew years ago, cannot deny the success of Trumponomics. So, who will the voters believe? The bloodthirsty forces arrayed against Trump intent on diverting attention from this robust economy, or their own lying eyes?